Oh,
All right, we are now live with October 6th episode, whatever, of Central Iowa Sports Suppository. We are waiting on Dakota. Who knows what he's doing? I think he's waiting on his girlfriend to get home. So it's just me and Steve for the moment until he jumps in.
yes.
So, in the meantime, where would you like to start off? Because I am not sure. I know we
I,
missed out on last week.
I was just gonna start with NFL. And I know, we still have Sunday and Monday night football left, but
Hmm.
uh, like my thoughts on the NFL is there's just a lot of mediocre football being played right now. Um, and it's kind of shocking. Um, because I think like as the season has played out, now granted we're only, we're 5 weeks in, but to be fair, it's a third of the season, right? I mean, for the most part,
Hmm.
you have some teams that only have played 4 games, like the Lions are on a bye, in a 17 game season, but we're 5 week through 5 weeks of 18. It's pretty close to a third of the way through. And I think you look at this league right now and go, going into last week, like Seattle looked good, right? And then they go in and they lose to Detroit, which wasn't overly shocking, but to be fair, the Lions hadn't beat the Seahawks in over a decade.
Yep.
But then they go and lose to the Giants at home, right? Um,
Hmm.
Fun stat though, every team that has played the Lions has lost the following week.
Hmm.
They
That is
beat the Rams in the opener, right? And then the
yep.
Rams lose the next week. Then they go and they lose to Tampa Bay in a really good game. Tampa Bay loses the next week. Then they beat the Cardinals. Cardinals lose the next week. Then they beat the Seahawks. Seahawks lose this week. But
Wow.
yeah, fun stat. But yeah, there's just a lot of mediocre football. There was looking like some teams that were going to separate themselves from the crop, and then Buffalo is now 3-2, right?
Yep.
Uh, and then the Jets look like they were going to be back, but now they've lost two in a row. And instead of a team that could easily be 4-1 is 2-3. Um,
Yeah.
Baltimore's bouncing back. Um, and the AFC West, I mean, the Raiders look bad. The Broncos, I don't think are good, but I just think they're a product of playing maybe some bad football teams. And you look at the NFC, and I sent a message to this group today. The NFC is wide open for literally any team in the NFC North to win it right now. The Bears are starting to look good.
Oh God, yes, they're
The
looking
Packers,
very scary.
the Packers look good in the second half of football games. First half, maybe not so much. Apparently, nobody can beat Sam Darnold, which is weird. And
Yeah, because
The Lions just look tough. I mean, they're 3-1, and they look they're that's just a well put together football team. But then when you look in the NFC, it's like, what's Tampa Bay? We're not sure, right? They looked good, now they don't. Atlanta looked bad, and maybe now they look good. Washington, maybe they're good, but it's Washington, so you're not sure. But Philly and Dallas look mediocre. San Fran does not look good at all. And
no,
I said it in an earlier episode, and I'll say it again. They are going to regret paying Brock Purdy a ton of money. They are going to regret it, and it's going to put them back into the Stone Age when they do. Because
yeah,
clearly that offense needs Christian McCaffrey.
yep,
And considering you're already paying McCaffrey, Debo, and Ayuk, you're gonna have to pay Purdy and probably get rid of somebody, and then probably gut that defense a bit. And that team's gonna be in a world of hurt. Purdy is not a franchise quarterback in terms of top dollar. I think it's
no.
very apparent. Um,
I think he is very Trent Dilfer. Like he's a good quarterback, but
yeah,
he's not elite level. He's a quarterback that's enough to get things done when you need them to be done, and he's a game manager. He
Yeah,
needs somebody like a CMC to be there to take a big load off of his shoulders. And with that, with that big threat of Christian McCaffrey, you've got Ayuk, then you've got Kittle, and you've got the rest of the receiving core that just torches everybody because you're too damn worried about Christian McCaffrey torching you, and then when you're
yeah,
worried about about the receivers and Kittle, then CMC's torching you, and it's like you can't figure it out. But
yep.
clearly, as we've seen here with 5 games into the season with CMC being out, and who knows when he's coming back. I mean,
Or two
hashtag
and
Madden
three.
curse.
Well, and here's the thing, and I was thinking about this, Corey, because I was like, is it CMC, and I was thinking back, and I said, you know what, it is because they went to the Super Bowl, or they had that run with Garoppolo, right,
Yep.
before CMC, and I think Garoppolo is just a better quarterback than Brock Purdy, uh, back then anyway, and then when this team was a 500 football team until they traded for McCaffrey. That's when this offense took off.
Yep.
Was when they actually traded for Christian McCaffrey, and then since they've had him, that's when they've turned into this, juggernaut per se, and they look bad without him. And it's a hamstring, I believe, right?
Yes.
And they're saying that he's not going to be activated for week 6. Um, I don't know who they play next week. I didn't look, but they're sitting at 2-3. But you're going into another week without Christian McCaffrey, and if you're San Francisco, good thing your division looks like dog shit.
Oh God, yes. It might
Uh,
potentially be the worst division in football right now because
because
God, like
Seattle's 3-2, the Niners are 2-3, Cardinals are 2-3, and the Rams are 1-4. Um, Seattle could easily be running away with this division,
oh
but they're
God, yeah.
not. And I just look at the Niners and go, he comes back from a hamstring, man. I know when people they come back quote unquote healthy, but those things seem to linger, even when they miss time. So, but I look at that NFC North and go, man, I mean that's a division where everybody's above 500 right now, and they all look good right now. So the NFL is just looking weird. Of course you have the Chiefs who are undefeated as of right now, easily could be winless. I mean, it's
Yeah,
crazy to say that.
no, they should be winless because let's face it. I mean, I'm not gonna say that not the coaches that the referees had anything to do with the Chiefs winning all of these games because I know a lot of people say that the refs are on the Chiefs' pockets and blah 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 blah. It's like you can make some cases for that, but at the same time, like for some reason why the Chiefs always figure it out, and it pisses me off because just when you think you've got them on the ropes, they're swinging back, and it's like right when you get ready to land that knockout punch, they catch you with an uppercut, and you're stumbling back, and you're down for the count, and it pisses me
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
They
and
always do it, always.
but if you look at the NFL right now, you have the Chiefs and Vikings are undefeated, right?
Yep.
And then you have the Steelers with one loss. You
Hmm.
have the Lions with one loss, and what's Washington? Are they actually a one-loss team right now, or are they a two-loss
Uh,
team?
that I'm not. I'm getting into ESPN to check real quick. Let me look at this.
Otherwise, you got a bunch of 3-2 and worse teams.
Yeah,
Like it's
Washington
really,
is 4-1.
yeah, that's what I
They're
was
leading the
thinking.
division right now.
It's real. It's like I said, it's weird football right now. The Cowboys are 2-2, Eagles are 2-2, uh,
Yeah, because the whole AFC East has at
Giants.
least two losses.
Yeah.
Steelers have one loss. Texans have one loss.
Oh,
Commanders one loss. Lions one loss, and that's all for the one loss teams. Like I honestly like. I think I really agree with you. Except I don't know if I'd call it quite mediocre. I just think there's so much parity in the NFL this year that everybody's just beating the living hell out of each other,
I just don't
and
think quarterback play is.
it's not to the level to where it was in
Yeah,
years past. Like,
and maybe it'll. Here's where I go. Is some of this because all these guys sit out in the preseason, and so they're still working off rust.
I mean, the first 2 weeks, I would definitely put that up to that. But here and now in week 5, it's like that rust has got to be shaken off. I mean, come on, for real.
And so, yeah, it's just it's bizarro world. I mean, there were some guys that weren't going to play in the preseason no matter what, coming off injuries like Rogers and Cousins.
Yeah,
But some of these other guys, you're just like, maybe you need that preseason to get some work in and build that chemistry. And I feel like it shows, especially for some of these guys who I don't think are as good as what maybe ESPN makes them out to be.
yeah.
Um, like a Trevor Lawrence. Um, it's like you could probably use all these reps. Like kudos to Jordan Love for playing a little bit in the preseason. So, I think, even playing a series or two, it's better than just sitting there in your street clothes.
Oh, and real quick to go back to your Christian McCaffrey thing with the ow shit that hurt with the 49ers. Their next 3 games, if they're going to be without McCaffrey, they're at Seattle, then they play the Chiefs and Cowboys back to back.
I mean, so you look at that and go, I mean, if they miss 3 games without McCaffrey with that,
They're going to
they
go 0 and
they
3.
could easily be 2-6.
I
Um,
I'm pretty sure they will be because I really don't think that we'll see 49ers have that great of a season at the end of the year because they have a week 9 bye and then they go to Tampa, got Seattle at home, they go to Green Bay in the end of November, and then they're at Buffalo the next week. Then they got the Bears, Rams at home, go to Miami, and then the Lions, and then
hmm
the Cardinals for the final week. I mean, I see at least 2, 3 losses right there. At
Yeah,
least.
yeah. This is a team that easily could end the year, assuming McCaffrey comes back in a couple weeks and is healthy. That's a 500 football team. Um,
Hmm.
and that's where we were talking earlier about, you know, people who could be on the hot seat. And, if this team goes 9-8 and like you can obviously, as you well know, as a Packer fan, you can go 9-8 and make the playoffs. Um, but if they finish 9-8, even if they make the playoffs, they're gonna have to make a Super Bowl run, or
Yep.
Shanahan's gone. I think. Uh,
I If he's not gone, he is on a seat hotter than you can possibly imagine it for next season,
right.
without a doubt. Like next season will straight up be win me the damn Super Bowl or you're gone. Period.
So I just think that's an interesting job to follow, depending on the status of Christian McCaffrey.
Hmm.
I think there's some other places that are going to be interesting as well as Dallas sitting at 500 with a lame duck coach and Mike McCarthy. We don't need to beat that one to death, but
Yep.
Buffalo comes out strong at 3-0 now 3-2. You know, I think that seat for McDermott is really really warm there.
Yeah.
I think they're tired of losing in the playoffs. Um, Zach Taylor in Cincinnati right now, a team that's 1-4, but easily could be undefeated, but
Yep.
they're not with
They
Super Bowl
very easily could be.
aspirations.
I mean, even at worst. I mean, I know at worst right now they could be 1 and 4, clearly. But I mean, with the way their games have played, with how they've played, they've not looked bad. It's just they've had some really bad bounces go the wrong way, and it's steamrolled and it's just snowballed like crazy, and it's just beating them up so badly.
Yeah. So you go, there's interesting jobs I know that could be open, like Pittsburgh even, and that wouldn't even necessarily be because of Pittsburgh record. That's just one of those. Tomlin's been there for so long, and they just seem to maybe
They just need a
not
change.
they're just not agreeing on how things should be going. But so it's like you're gonna have some of these teams. You've got Pete Carroll on the market, right? You've
Hmm.
got Bill Belichick on the market, technically. Um, and if Mike Tomlin were to hit the market, some of these franchises, they're going to want to take a run at, those three guys if they, poop down their legs this year. So
Yeah.
I think it could be really, really interesting because um, those are some big names. Now, I'm in the camp. I don't think Bill Belichick's coaching another down of football, but
No.
he's out there, and he's out there until he says he's retired. So, you just look at those jobs and go, if San Fran, goes down the leg, or in Buffalo and Cincinnati, like, shoot, they're gonna want to make a big splash. And right now, like, outside of those three names, I don't know of anybody with established head coaching resume you're gonna want to go get. Um, because
Outside of,
you're gonna go to the
you know,
coordinator pool,
yeah, outside of
which,
coordinators or maybe even dipping down into college,
yeah, and obviously I think
like Lane Kiffin or something. I
and I
could
think
probably see Lane Kiffin potentially coming up, maybe depending if the fit is right.
I don't. Yeah, I can see. I don't. I think Lane Kiffin will leave Ole Miss with all these guys. Because historically, that's not a great job that where they do well year over year. Um, and they're going to be losing quite a few people. So I can see him bolting. But
Hmm.
from a coordinator standpoint, though, in the NFL, like if you're looking for a guy, obviously you think Ben Johnson's going to be the top name. Because he was a guy who easily could have been gone last year. Chose to come back to Detroit. Um, but otherwise, it's like I don't know what coordinator. I mean, Houston's coordinator came up as well. Um, their
Jeff
offensive
Halfley,
coordinator,
he's doing really well in Green Bay right now with.
and so you go. Here's another name actually I didn't think about because it's just one of those I can't believe he didn't get a job after he got fired. But Mike Vrabel, um,
Oh God, yeah,
he did a great job in Tennessee, um, of getting them a lot of wins and winning that division. When, with my opinion, a team that didn't really have a lot of talent. Uh, like that Tennessee Titans team that he always had felt like almost like an Iowa Hawkeye team to me, or a Wisconsin team when
yeah,
Wisconsin was good. A team where you're like, they're not that good. There's not a lot of talent there, but damn, they played well together.
yep.
Um,
Because they
you know,
always ran the ball like crazy because Derrick Henry. But
right?
their defenses were so insane. It's like, dude, you've never heard of any of these guys, and they're out here playing like all pros.
Yeah.
How?
So yeah, I guess Mike Vrabel would be out there, assuming he wants to coach. But um, and I think some of these young quarterbacks are really interesting to watch too right now because you already have Bryce Young getting benched, right, from
Yeah.
that class 2 years ago. Stroud looks good, and then Levis is already coming under heat in Tennessee, and Anthony Richardson can't stay healthy,
Nope.
and so that is part of what when I talk about quarterback play being subpar. Like some of these young guys that came in that were supposed to light the world on fire just aren't. Um, the Trevor Lawrence draft class is garbage now. I
Hmm.
mean, you know, uh, the CJ well, was the Bryce Young draft class, and you're looking at that and going, that looks like dog crap, and we're only in year two of that class, but you already have the Tennessee quarterback and Levis that they want gone. Young's already benched. Richardson can't stay healthy. And then you look at, you Caleb Williams is doing okay right now, from last year, but and Jaden Daniels is tearing it up. But you know, it's a little, if these draft classes are only going to produce like 1 to 2 quarterbacks tops, that's not good for the NFL.
No, not at all.
And
And that's something's going to have to give here because I hear a lot about. I mean, I know we could talk a lot more about this when we get into NCAA talk, but like Cam Ward, I mean, I hear so much talk about him being very likely the number one quarterback that comes out of the draft next year, and I'm like, I don't see it. I really
no,
don't.
yeah, I mean they
He's
said
a
Shador.
phenomenal athlete. He's a phenomenal athlete. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but
like
he's not a quarterback.
Shador is the like betting favorite, and then like it's funny because I was looking at this, and we've always been talking about Shador Ewers. Man,
Hmm.
like Quinn Ewers is like the fifth quarterback that they're talking about getting drafted, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right,
Like they're so obsessed with mobility and athleticism, and it's like, but it doesn't translate to the NFL with everybody because they can't
right.
stay. Like you get Anthony Richardson, who can't stay healthy right now. He's in year
Hmm.
two. He played how many games last year? Like a handful,
Yeah.
and he's already gone right now after he got hurt last week. So he played 3.5 games, and we don't know when he's going to come back. Um, Mobility is an added feature for a guy that, but I feel like they're trying to use that as their weapon. And I go, if if you're gonna tell me that you think Jalen Milrow and Cam Ward should be drafted ahead of Quinn Ewers, I know I'm not a talent evaluator for NFL teams, but I tell you, you're crazy.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
Because I know Quinn Ewers, he ain't the fastest, but when he has to escape from the pocket, he's gone quick.
and it's like, so it's like, but once again, that's mobility, and but he's got a good arm, he's accurate, and he's making good decisions. Sure,
Yeah.
he's kind of had maybe an injury history at Texas, but and in my opinion, like the 1 year against Bama, that was a dirty hit. Dirty hit that drew a 15-yard penalty when he like broke his clavicle or something like that.
Hmm.
Like it was a dirty play. And then this year is just a freak with the abdominal issue. Um, but he was healthy last year, and I just look at that and go, look at that guy and go, I mean, that looks like he looks like an NFL quarterback to me. He can make plays in the pocket and he can make the throws, and when he needs to move around, he can. And what are the most successful quarterbacks in the NFL doing right now? They're making throws from the pocket, and when they move around, they can. Like, folks, Patrick Mahomes is not a running quarterback. He's mobile. But look what Patrick Mahomes does most of the time. He moves around and makes throws. He doesn't take off running. And when he does,
Right.
he gets his ass down.
Yep.
And
You see
so,
too many of these mobile quarterbacks like Milrow and Cam Ward in college that do get out of the pocket and take off running. They don't go down. They get blasted.
yeah, and I go, I was looking at, it was a mock draft, and Quinn Ewers, I believe he was the fifth quarterback. Um, the number one overall pick was actually Travis Hunter. Um,
I'm not surprised with that.
because it was Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Um, but it was Shador was first, Milrow was second, Cam Ward, and I gotta think. I'm sorry of who the other quarterback was because it was another one where I was like, really? Because then uh, Carson Beck was after Ewers in round one. There was a bunch of quarterbacks going, but I can't remember who it was. But they had Ewers going to the Jets, like when the Jets were pro- looking like maybe a playoff team, so like in the 20s.
Hmm.
And it was like, I mean, if a guy like Quinn Ewers were to fall to the Jets, like that organization would have to be ecstatic to make the
Oh
playoffs
God, yeah.
and then be able to get the heir apparent to Rodgers. I mean, they did take Jordan Travis this past draft, but like man, I go, you know, Cam Ward just doesn't look like an NFL quarterback to me. Like, and I don't know if it's just because like Miami has just been escaping by the skin of their teeth, but I look at that team and go, like, this is a team that has been digging themselves into holes. He's their quarterback, right? Why offensively, like, why are you letting yourself get down that far and then trying to dig out of it at the end? If you're supposed to be
Right.
such a good team. So I don't know. Like, it's going to be interesting to watch these college quarterbacks this year, see if they can separate themselves at all. Um,
Yeah, because so far the only one that I've seen that's actually performed the way I figured he would, Ewers.
yeah, when healthy.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's
because
gonna be
Milrow,
interesting.
to be fair, Milrow he hasn't looked bad, but who has he played against? The one team that he actually played against, their one loss was Vandy, and the only reason why he looked decent was because of that hotshot 17-year-old that's been kicking everybody's ass.
And that's why they got that big lead against Georgia too. I mean,
Yep.
he's also got a really good offensive line
Yeah.
at Alabama, and that's the I guess we can just pivot right into college at this point.
Yeah, we might as well.
So that's like one of the problem with the quarterback situation in the NFL has to do with college, in my
Yep.
opinion. Uh, College offenses, for the most part, have been dumbed down to one read, two read, go, right?
Yep.
And the offenses that don't do that, where the quarterback does run more of a pro style type of offense, like in the case of Alabama, their offensive lines are really good. And so their quarterback has time to read the field and make decisions. And that's why a lot of those teams do one read, two read, go, because they know their O lines are bad. And so they're like, we're going to try to like give our quarterback the best possible opportunity. So make your first read, your second read, and if it's not there, now go, so that we can try to get a positive play. And so then these quarterbacks look good, right? Like the Baylor offense under Art Briles, that was what RG3 did. Here's my first read, here's my second read, and then I'm going. Um, and not to say that RG3 is a bad quarterback or was a bad quarterback at all, but when you go to the NFL for some of these guys that don't run that offense, where they actually are running a pro style offense, but they go to a bad team with no O line, they stink because they're used to protection. So, when that when you go to the NFL and it's like I'm going to run another pro style offense, but you're used to sitting back in your pocket for 5 to 7 seconds all the time and now you're moving it 3, that's a world of difference.
Hmm.
And so in the case of like your Jalen Milrose who are running around hitting people when they're running downfield in the NFL, those guys are bigger and faster than you.
Oh God, yeah.
I can't, and that's what Anthony Richardson's finding out. But then in the case of your RG3s that go from a bad Baylor wasn't bad, like, but they go from an offensive 1-2 go. Well, in the NFL, you go to a team with a bad O line, you can run the same kind of 1-2 go, but those defenders are hitting you so much quicker and so much harder because they're faster. Like,
Yep.
it's just the part that people they don't it's so hard to think about when you're like, well, they're playing against D1 talent in college. Like, they should be playing against all this great talent. but that talent is spread out across 115 teams. And so when you're Alabama and you're lining up as Jalen Milrow at quarterback, and I can look and go, I've got an NFL all line in front of me, and I've got NFL receivers to throw to. And defensively, maybe I'm playing a really good defense, but my third receiver is an NFL receiver playing against a guy who couldn't make a practice squad in the NFL. I'm gonna torch them, you know, because I have NFL talent playing against non NFL talent, um, and that's where it's so hard for these quarterbacks to adjust because they get used to playing with all of this NFL talent on their own team and then playing against non NFL talent that when they get to the league, they're like, wait, everybody's good. And
Case
it's
in
like,
point,
yeah,
Ohio State quarterbacks for the past forever,
yeah.
minus
CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud.
So far, anyway. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. And it was kind of one of those two where, like, I was telling you how I was at soccer tournament all weekend for a couple kids, and my daughter's team was playing in the championship game. And one of the players before was like, so is the team we're playing good? And I looked at her and I said, not my daughter, but the other player, and I said, you should just view everybody as good all the time, every game. But yeah, I mean, if you're in a tournament, and you're in a championship game, you should just assume the team you're playing is good. Um,
Right.
but in college, you get those guys, and they aren't. They go to the NFL and they're like, oh, so this is what it's like to maybe not have a good interior O line.
Yeah, and I think that's a big reason why we see so many college players just flop so hard because there are so many guys that I watch in the draft. They always run their mouths. Always. Like,
Yeah,
case in point, Caleb Williams tells your guy or tells Tory Taylor, "You're not going to be punting that much this season, boy."
right. And
He
who
had he had more punting yards in the first 2 weeks of the season than the Bears had offensive yards. That's
and
terrible.
and who have the Bears made a hype video for in the middle of the season so far?
Right. That's pretty bad.
Tory Taylor.
That's pretty like
For
I
real,
love Tory
folks. Like,
Taylor.
for real, like, folks, if you don't know, I'm not lying. The Bears made a hype video for Tory Taylor
That's pretty bad when
because
you're an
he's been
NFL team making a hype
unreal.
video for a punter.
Because he has been unreal.
Yeah,
And
it's
and
Tory
so
Taylor. Dude's a badass.
yes,
Minus the
so
swagger and attitude of Pat McAfee, dude is like the goat of punters.
and
He
Pat
is
McAfee
insane.
loves him too.
Oh God, yeah. Pat McAfee would freaking like lick his ball sack if he could. I'm sure he probably is begging to because it's Pat McAfee. I mean, and it's Tory Taylor. So I mean, it's Tory Taylor is a god with a leg.
Yeah, but yeah, since we're gonna talk since we're talking college football, some upsets this week. Let's see if we can catch them all. So down goes number one Alabama to Vandy.
I did not see that one at all.
Holy crap! Didn't see that one coming either. Vandy's much improved, but
Yeah,
still didn't see that coming. Um, Kudos to my dad on calling the Tennessee Arkansas upset. He called that one when we were talking last night before the game started. On our way to Spirit Halloween because we were talking about the Vandy win and then going, well, it's just Texas and Tennessee is the only unbeaten's now. And my dad goes, yeah, it'll be interesting because Tennessee plays at Arkansas and they haven't won there in like 17 years. and then they still haven't won at Arkansas.
Yep.
Um, so kudos to him. So that was another upset. You had SMU going into Louisville and getting the win. Kudos to me on calling that one. I can show you that bet slip on DraftKings. I turned my $1 into like $2.20. So
Wow.
I know I'm a big risk taker.
Me too.
Free money on DraftKings for my birthday that I've been playing on for 2 months now. So,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
um,
Hey, it's always good with
but also only Louisville's third home loss in the last 3 years. They said this morning too. So, um, as far as ranked teams go, no. Oklahoma State was ranked, right? And
no,
got they were not ranked because I
nope.
know West Virginia throttled them.
Yeah, that one,
Um,
even though that wasn't necessarily an upset because it was unranked versus unranked, I did like I had Oklahoma State
Oklahoma
making the
State was
playoff.
favored.
Yeah,
Oklahoma State was favored.
they were heavily favored, I believe.
Um,
Actually, they weren't. Um, on my draft book, West Virginia was favored.
it could have shifted late
Yeah,
because I didn't look at lines after like Friday. So like last I looked, Oklahoma State was like a 2.5 point, but not. I mean, not big, right? I mean,
right.
but they got throttled at home. Um, Michigan was a dog, actually. I don't know if you knew that. Michigan was a road dog, 1 point road dog,
Yep.
and still got beat. I still consider that an upset, though, because I just
Yeah.
think Michigan should have more talent there. That team's in
Then
trouble.
it was an unranked versus a top 10 win. So,
So,
and then you had
uh,
USC losing at Minnesota, which I did not see as
oh,
well.
did that actually happen? I missed
Yeah,
that.
Minnesota came back. They
My
scored 14
wow,
points in the fourth quarter to win.
wow. See, I missed that one, which then leads me to going the state of the Big Ten is concerning to me.
Yeah.
Um, so
In
obviously
all honesty, it's kind of a shit show,
the
minus
two
Ohio State.
the two big dogs play right this week: Ohio State and Oregon. Ohio
Yep.
State opening up on the road as a 4.5 point favorite, by the way. Um, but after that, it's it's Penn State, right? I mean, even though they don't look great,
There are four teams undefeated in the Big Ten right now.
but are we really going Indiana's a serious threat?
I would say no, but
I
God, they
mean,
just keep winning. I don't know
but
why. I
I mean,
don't
they haven't played anybody.
know. I mean, they have. I mean, they beat the piss out of everybody so far. The big test will come in 2 weeks. They're playing Nebraska.
Who doesn't look good?
No, they do not right now.
So, and that's the thing. It's like the Big Ten outside of those three is so wide open. If Iowa had an offense, like oh my god, like that team is like I don't understand how they can be so incompetent offensively and specifically at one position. Um, which is quarterback for anybody who's never watched Iowa football. Spare your eyes at watching quarterback play. Like, and part of it is just Kirk Ferentz's stubbornness to realize that Cade McNamara just doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
He's suffered too many injuries that is impacting his play and his ability to be an effective quarterback.
Oh, 100%.
Um,
You can see it every time he tries to quote unquote step into a pass. He
yeah,
half asses it all the
and so you see Sullivan come in and spark some life into the offense late in that Ohio State game. And then you have, a team like Wisconsin who looked like that maybe they wanted to lose uh, to maybe the worst team in the Big Ten next to Northwestern and Purdue for a while.
time.
Um,
Yeah.
And then Corey decided to take a nap, and they went, "Oh, that's what we're doing. We should not be taking a nap because we're playing football." But you look at
Yep.
Wisconsin, but you look at that Wisconsin team and go, "God, if they had an offense." Um,
That's what they look like when they have an offense. Because
and then you
damn.
look at a USC team and go, "Jesus, if they had a defense."
Yep.
And then you look at Michigan State just sucks.
Yeah.
Um, and then Michigan is in a world of hurt right now too.
They can't
Um,
figure anything out. Like their offense looks good and then it looks bad. Their defense looks good and then it looks bad. It's like they're so hit or miss on both sides of the
yep.
ball. It's like you never know
Minnesota
what you're gonna get.
Minnesota struggles with quarterback play. I don't think they know what they want to be offensively, and I think that's been part of their problem.
Hmm.
Is they try to pretend that they're a team that can throw the ball one year, and then they're like, "Just kidding, we're gonna now run the ball. Just kidding, now we're gonna be a team that brings in a mobile quarterback. Just kidding." That team has struggled to find an identity offensively. Like Iowa knows what their identity is on offense. They're going to
Yep.
establish the run, they're going to run the ball, and then use that to run play action to throw the ball. The problem is when you can't run play action and throw the ball, you have to go back to running the ball because your quarterback can't run the play action game. Because Iowa's offense has always been predicated on establishing the run, running play action, but also with that play action being able to run the play action boot where they move. And Cade can't move. And so it's killing their passing game. But anyway, enough about Iowa. They're just frustrating. The Big
Yeah.
Ten, just UCLA looks bad. Not that we were thinking they were going to be good. Washington, like, what is Washington? I think we're going to learn a lot about Washington when they come into Iowa City this week. Um, but I just look at the Big Ten and go, this is a hot mess from a football standpoint right now.
Yeah.
And I know the SEC has maybe been stubbing their toe here a bit over the last couple weeks with Alabama losing, Ole Miss losing. Obviously, Alabama or Georgia was going to have to lose, but then Tennessee losing. But at least they don't look like a hot mess. Like
Right.
Georgia can go, you know what? We lost to Alabama on the road. And yeah, we were getting our ass kicked for a half, but we came back and almost won. And
Yeah.
then we rebounded the next week. Um, Tennessee can go, we went to Arkansas where we haven't won in almost 2 decades.
And to be fair,
And
Arkansas is not a bad team.
no, no, they're not. And we, you know, if we wouldn't have crapped our pants in the fourth quarter, they win that game. Texas A&M starting to look actually good. Talking about another
Yeah.
team that lost in Missouri. Um, so the SEC, while maybe some of these teams are losing, they're losing to teams that are actually looking good. Where in the Big Ten, like USC loses to Minnesota, right?
Hmm.
And you walk away and you're like, neither one of those teams looked good.
Yep.
And you walk away from Alabama, Georgia, and you're like, shit, man, those are two damn good teams.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's pretty damn sad when you have games like the Big Ten that they hype up like, okay, here we go. Michigan, these guys too. Tune in. This is gonna be a
I
dogfight.
know,
And that's like, this sucks. Then the SEC, they're like, Bama, Georgia, let's get it.
right.
Or even this past weekend, Bama, Vandy, this could be good. And then you're like, all right, I'll check in. I'll check on it. And then you're like, oh shit, that was fantastic.
And
It's
then there's
pretty damn sad for the state of the Big Ten, and it's like, why?
so as we're talking about the state of the Big Ten, though, and then we were talking about the SEC, but then there's the rest of college football, and
Yeah,
folks, it ain't good. So, I mean, I will
no,
make no secret, I hate Iowa State. They are up to number 11 in the polls. And I would tell you right now, if they were in the Big Ten or the SEC, that team is not surviving. Um, it is the clearly right now in college football. It is the SEC, then the Big Ten, and then the rest. Um, and it's kind of frightening because you don't want football to be so heavy in one conference over others, even though you always want your conference to be like the best, right? But
Yeah.
you really want some talent spread out. And I'm going to get to something on this here in a little bit. Um, but the Big 12 is not good. Okay.
No.
It's not. The ACC is not good right now in college football. It's it's frightening. Huh.
No, it's pretty like it's really damn sad when the ACC hangs their hat on Miami. In the last 2 weeks, they have looked like absolute dog shit. They should
Yeah,
have
and
lost
honestly, if
both
you
games.
watch the replay of that Virginia Tech game, and you're like, that replay overturn is bullshit.
Yep,
There is not indisputable evidence. Like whatever the call on the field was, should have stood.
I completely agreed. Because while I
Uh,
was sitting there watching it with my buddy, I was like, in all honesty, I have a really strong feeling it's going to get overturned, but it should stand. Like, I don't see any reason why it should not stand. But at the same time, it's like I was content no matter how it would have played out, just because it was so close. But to me, having to make it, if I were in that position to where I 100% had to make the decision, I would have been like, I, I can't. It's got to stand. It has
yeah,
to. It's not confirmed. Call stands.
yeah.
Call it.
Um, but yeah, that's literally but that's the state of college football. It's like, man, the ACC is not good. The Big 12's not good. The Big Ten is shaky. The SEC
Hmm.
looks really good. And I saw an interesting article today though that I was like, you know what? This actually would trend. And I know this is a sports podcast, but we're gonna get political real quick. There is some data showing that prime time D1 athletes are flooding to the South to avoid going to northern states due to the politics in a lot of those northern and northeastern states.
That tend to be more liberal.
Yes. And when you think about it, you go, that kind of makes sense with how the SEC is all like continue to get better and better and better and better, and how you've also seen like the ACC really fall off a cliff in terms of talent in college football. And then when you look at the ACC and you look at the teams that have been good, right? Florida
Hmm.
State, Southern team, Clemson, Southern team, Miami, Southern team. I mean, it kind of is telling. And then when you look at the Big Ten and go, look at the teams that have been good in the Big Ten, Ohio State, okay, national power, blue blood. Michigan,
Yep.
national power, blue blood. Red state, blue state, okay. Those USC isn't, well, I guess, they're the Big Ten now, but
Yeah.
national blue blood.
Yep.
And it was really really interesting to go, I wonder if like there's anything to it, or if the data is just trending that way and being spun because of weather as well. um because that's how I've always viewed it, was not political but weather driven. Like, if you're a big time college athlete and you're already from the South, you're probably going to want to stay in the South, right?
Yep.
Because you're used to that weather. If you're a big time college, high school recruit for D1 and you're from the Midwest and you stay in the Midwest, it's not because of the weather. You're staying probably because you're a fan of that school or had some ties to that school. Otherwise, you've got kids that have gone south because of weather.
Hmm.
And now with NIL, it's gonna really shake it all up too. And I think that could get really interesting when you have state legislatures, putting laws into place regarding some of this. And if
Hmm.
there are red states or blue states that will go more favorably one way or the other for D1 athletes, and traditionally more southern states are red. And I think that I just thought it was a really interesting way to look at college football and college athletics in general in terms of where talent's going. Because I've never looked at it from a political standpoint. I've always looked at it in terms of historical blue bloods to current success to who coaches are and weather.
Hmm.
I mean, so like nothing makes me more jealous than like watching like an SEC football game in like mid-November when I'm freezing my ass off here and going like,
And
"Oh,
you see
look at
all the
them."
fans that are, down there in their shirts
Well,
and shorts and maybe a couple like long sleeve shirts, and they're like, "Woo,
I know.
70 degrees, bitch,"
And I'm
and we're
like,
like,
"Oh, my balls are in my stomach."
"It's 20 degrees and 30 below because of wind chills. This sucks."
Yeah. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch play out. I don't know how much validity there is to that, but I don't want to make our sports podcast anything political, but it was sports related in terms of
Yeah,
talent and where it's going and why. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Found it interesting. So
yeah, I think that's something to keep an eye out as well, because I mean, in uh, I guess in the spirit of the little political talk there, because you kind of see it this way. I mean, look at Utah. Like, I know they're a northern state, but that's a very Mormon state.
yeah,
They are very religious, so they religious people tend to vote more Republican. So
yeah, and
looking at it in that
it is
way,
a red state.
yeah, and they're getting some very damn good recruits. And then you got Arizona. Neither of those schools are that bad, but they're really not good either. It's a blue
Hmm.
state.
Yeah, traditionally red, but it has shifted blue here recently.
So it's like that does show some validity to it. And it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on, because that's very interesting. And I honestly didn't even see that. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on that,
Yeah,
because I think with how politics are playing a role big time in the NIL with college, because to be fair, that's something that has to be brought up, because the NIL has
yep,
become extremely political.
yeah, yeah. So that's why it's going to be. That's why I kind of took notice because with NIL, you are going to have you're going to get state legislatures that are more and more going to start doing things with this. And if one party over the other is, you know, being more favorable toward athletes over the other, where if one's being more restrictive,
Hmm.
uh, you're going to that will play more of a role. So
Welcome, Dakota.
I'm glad to be here.
It's about time you take your hand out of your pants and join us.
right,
Sorry, I got kids, man. They can be killers sometimes.
Ah, it's all good, man. I get it. 'Cause I got a puppy that's freaking out outside in the kennel right now. So, well, it's not outside. It's just outside of my room.
Well, yeah. Well, puppies are a handful anyway.
Yeah, and me, I mean, I've got an infected toe, and like, I had an ingrown toenail cut out,
oof,
and it's just not gotten any better. It's like super infected right now, and like, you know how puppies are. They like to chew on everything they can see, and
Oh
it's like,
man.
oh, she wants to chew on my leg and my foot and my ankle. Oh no, don't touch my toe. But anyways, to fill you in as to what's been going on, we chatted NFL, so you're late on that. We are
Oh
now
man.
talking NFL, or we are now talking college football.
Gotcha.
Now we chatted about the big upsets of the weekend already,
I was
and
Yeah.
gonna say there was some pretty nasty upsets.
yeah, there was some upset Saturday. Period.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. That's a good name for it.
And I did want to get your guys' opinion on this. Um,
Okay.
I did see somebody. Uh, he was like a national writer. I can't remember who it was, but he ended up deleting the tweet because he got so much crap for it. But he said straight up, Vandy's upset of Bama was bigger for college football than App State over Michigan. I 100% called bullshit.
Um,
I
to me,
agree in the sense that it was big for college football, but maybe not in that sense.
so the biggest upset, I think this was actually bigger than App State over Michigan, but Jim Harbaugh Stanford over USC, I think was actually bigger, wasn't it? Because they were like a 35 to 38 point underdog. And that's always the big upset that comes to my mind next to App State over Michigan. But Vandy over Vandy over Bama probably won't even be the biggest upset of this year.
Probably not.
Like he was talking in terms of like impact, not like point spread
Okay.
wise.
But what I so that it's hard to say what the impact is because you know we've only had like two poops since that's happened.
Right.
Um, so
Now,
does Vandy take that momentum and make an 8-4 season out of it and put together a recruiting class that sets them on a trajectory to where they're talking about making college football playoffs in the next like couple years? Or are they going to go and shit the bed next week because that's what happens, right? You get the big upset and then you crap the bed in the next week because you're deflated from all the emotion. So it's
Yeah.
hard to say what impact that it actually has because I look at a Vandy team that upset Virginia Tech and then shit the bed either the very next week or the week after.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks after that because they beat Vatek, destroyed Alcorn State because it's freaking Alcorn State. Then
Right.
they lost at Georgia State by 4, lost to Mizzou by 3, and then beat Bama.
Yeah.
And now, next on Saturday, they go to Kentucky.
see,
Which
and that's going to be a difficult game as is. Like they're
Yeah,
going to Kentucky.
on the road
All
against a
the
pretty
things
good
that you
football
said,
team.
Steve, about the emotions. I'm now thinking about how much this affects Bama, not from a scouting, because honestly, it's Bama. Who are we kidding? This is gonna be like what, like the Chiefs not having any issue signing anybody because everybody wants to win a Super Bowl. This, what I think might happen with this Bama team. It really depends because, like I said, it all depends on how they take this loss. If any team is going to be able to bounce back perfectly fine, it's going to be Alabama. But if any team's going to crumble, it's going to be Alabama.
See, I'm not worried about Bama at all because I look at the Bama loss to Vandy and go, Bama's coming off of a huge win at home against Georgia, goes to the SEC version of Evanston and shits the bed after a big emotional high win and goes to, you know, Vandy, who this year has some sneaky good talent, which is like what Northwestern used to be, a sleepy stadium that typically has no anything going on in it. But then they get those that year, here and there where they get some sneaky good talent, and then the big dog rolls in, and the place comes to life once every 5 years, and they get that win. I just look at that's what I think happened with Bama. To be honest with you, I just think
yeah,
it's actually I think from an impact standpoint, though, I think the impact more is it kind of opens up that college football playoff a little more because now Bama has a loss that you weren't expecting, you know.
Yep.
Uh
I
And
don't think this is
so,
entirely game breaking or like what is it, playoff breaking, because I don't think that this loss to Bama really shifts the playoffs that much. But like you said, Steve, it definitely does open the doors for a lot of other teams
yep,
to
just
maybe
gives
be able to squeak in there because of that loss.
yeah, because you
Right.
got like a team with Ole Miss who lost a game you weren't expecting, but has a favorable schedule. Who goes, oh, we're back to even footing with Alabama and have a
Yeah.
more favorable schedule. Um, it's really, if anything, it's more about like what can Vandy do with it going forward.
Really
And I
about momentum grabbing.
and I hate to say it, but if Vandy puts together a good year, their coach is gone, right? I mean, James
Yeah.
Fletcher. I mean, James Franklin put together, a nice couple years, and he was gone. You know,
That's
uh,
how these bigger programs get their head coaches.
yeah,
They see these smaller programs. I'm not gonna say Vandy's that much smaller of a program because in terms of name value, I'd say it's definitely there. Like people know of Vanderbilt, but in comparison to an Alabama, that is definitely a smaller program, and I would definitely see that coming from a mile away.
See, to kind of piggyback off of what you said, Dakota, um, I was watching yesterday. Again, I can't remember what the hell it was. Um, I was playing on my phone last night, and I can't remember what the hell I was watching. You guys know how that is. You just come across something, and
Oh yeah,
it's like,
you and
oh
your
man, this
porn,
is
right?
interesting. But anyways, it was something sports related. They were talking about um, Vandy over Bama, and that's when they were talking about the size difference and the fact that Bama had twice as many fans. I mean, the fans in the stands at Vandy were easily 3 or 4 to 1 ratio. Bama to Vandy. It
Those
was
A
almost like a
lot of those
home game
fans
for
went
Bama.
there to watch Alabama play.
Yeah, and they were all Bama fans.
Yep.
But they were saying don't put so much emphasis on this win because Vandy is an SEC school. Because the sole reason why they're in the SEC is because they joined the FBS when they did. It was back in the freaking day when there was almost nobody in the SEC and they were trying to grow, so they added Vandy. If they were to do that today, they'd be a Conference USA or a Sun Belt team.
Easily, or an independent, kind of the way Notre Dame was flying for a while there.
and Vandy helps the SEC pull up their GPA.
Yeah, that they
Sorry,
do.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're an academic school for
they're
sure.
they're
Yeah,
really good academic school. Unlike
they're
Nebraska, the N
I was gonna
stands
say
for
people
knowledge.
literally get scholarships, and people try to go to Vanderbilt for their academics.
yeah.
Yeah,
Basketball, baseball, and academics. That's
Yeah,
about
I was gonna
it.
say
like I
Vanderbilt's always been a good basketball
they
school.
they are our Northwestern. I mean, they really like those two schools. They are academic. They're smart. They're academic schools that have poor stadium atmospheres for football. uh,
Especially for the next few seasons, because I mean, shit, it's like what 12,000 people that you can or that can attend Northwestern games.
right?
I was
Hey,
just
let's
thinking
play on a soccer field next to Lake Michigan.
we're talking about schools that have more of that presence in the basketball than they do the football, but the football's there. Now imagine if Georgetown or like a Villanova had like a truly like epic football team,
Hmm.
like how much of a powerhouse both of those like programs would truly become. Because like you already got the reputation from the basketball teams being so good.
Yeah,
Like that's something that they clearly put emphasis on. And if they really put that time and effort into like a football program like that, because I like don't get me wrong, like maybe like correct me if I'm wrong, I should say, because I'm not sure Villanova even has a football team. At least Georgetown, you know, I'm not sure if either of those, they really care that much about football. mean, not that
They
that
don't.
wouldn't be a bad idea to get a football team there, but
And it's
it was
like
just
Gonzaga joining the Pac-12. They don't have a football team. So
yeah,
for Pac-12 to remain in existence, they have to get another school
that
that will play football.
yeah. And if I'm Pac-12, I'm getting desperate, man. I'm gonna get desperate right now, and I'm gonna start reaching out to some of these smaller schools, like we see it. Some of these Division twos or threes that are just sneaky good. Maybe that may have not gotten a lot of attention, but could get the attention if you put them in the spotlight. I'm just thinking you got to get sneaky
Well,
and
there's
really
a lot
start.
of talk that the Pac-12 might talk to Idaho to try to get them to join because they've become quite the program in the FCS.
I was going to say, North Dakota State, that would be a perfect school to talk to
Yeah, I mean,
because,
if they
like,
want to make
giving
that,
them the spotlight and the exposure, even them being like as good as they've been in their division, it just makes too much sense to put them in at a higher division to see what they could do.
right.
We're talking about growth, and that would grow the program significantly.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see what comes with the big Pac-12 because they need 2 more football programs to remain in existence. Period. And they have, I think, 1 or 2 more years to get it done. So they are running out of time quick.
Well, they better kick it into high gear because it ain't gonna last much longer.
Right. But I am going to have to make this a short show because unfortunately I have fatherly duties I have to do now.
Understood. I was gonna say that's what kept me from joining.
Yeah, I get it. Clausen was in Indiana all weekend with his mom because she graduated from Purdue. So
Oh hell yeah!
he missed me, so he wanted to come over, and he's spending the night. So I need
Oh
to
shit!
get
Be a
him off of
dad.
here. Marker all over his face, so I can't let him go to school with marker on his face tomorrow.
I was gonna say
That would
probably
be
not.
horrible.
Yeah, that would be god awful.
But we will try and get back together again this upcoming weekend and talk
I was
more
gonna
football.
say maybe we could just plan for this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, we'll chat with Steve, see what we can pull out, get the
Oh
3 of us
yeah.
together. But
Oh yeah, because honestly, when I hopped in here, I didn't have anything wrote down or nothing. I didn't have any. I was riffing off of what you guys were saying, so
say what?
I was gonna say I didn't have any material at all written down when I hopped in. I was kind of like, all right, they're ready for me. I'm hopping in.
All right, I didn't either. Only just because I remember I was like, dude, we were gonna do a show last week, but then I ended up getting stuck over at my buddy's house watching the freaking Vatech Miami game.
Yeah, I've been kind of on this gaming kick because I just got a new Xbox, and I've also been like because there's been quite a bit of wrestling going on, and there's just a whole lot of shit going on. So honestly, I haven't really been paying attention to sports as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
So next time, the next episode we hop in here, we're definitely gonna grind it out.
Yeah, sounds good because now we got the baseball playoffs in full swing now, and
I was gonna say the baseball playoffs are in full effect. Speaking
NHL
of
has
which, I
officially
might be
kicked
playing.
off.
I was gonna say we got some hockey now. We got a
Yeah,
little bit
we
of
had
everything going on right now.
we got 2 games overseas that have been played already, and then the rest of the season starts in 3 days. So
Oh
the
hell yeah!
official start of the regular season is in 3 days.
Not soon enough.
Nope. Anyways, I am going to jump off here, and I will chat with y'all later.
Oh yeah.